there was this kid that I would constantly compete against. He was taller, he was 2 heads taller than me. So he and I would go up against each other. And I was like my dad, I was a quick point fighter. And this kid was just like a stand toe to toe, hands in, just a brawler. And so he would just, punch me in the arms, he would kick me in, I'd block, and I'd get knocked all over the place. So he came up and he did this skip up side kick, and he kicked me. It was like a Bruce Lee movie. He kicked me in the arm, and I just went, it was in a basketball gym. I went flying across the mat, knocked into the chairs, and all the chairs were all over the place. And I remember his dad came over and literally took a picture of me on the ground.
Welcome back to FURYCAST. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and of course, smash the bell for notifications. Welcome on FURYCAST today, Mr. Justin Ichikawa, aka Sensei Ichi, correct?
Yes, sir.
So take a couple of minutes. First of all, thank you for coming on the show. Take a couple minutes and tell people that may not be familiar with you who you are and what you do.
My name is Justin Ichikawa. I'm an 8th Dan black belt in American Tang Soo Do karate. And I've been training under my father's tutelage since I was about 3.5 years old. My father has been in the martial arts his entire life. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary of him owning a school in the martial arts industry. And I started doing a YouTube channel. I haven't been on it in a minute, but I little by little doing videos here and there. But I started doing a YouTube channel just for fun, and ended up turning into something a little bit more. So I kept doing it, and that's kind of what I've been doing ever since. But my main priority is to my martial arts school. My father and I own a school in in Southern California, in Thousand Oaks, and that's pretty much it. We've been owning that school since I was a little kid.
So usually I ask people to take me back to when you first started the martial arts, but you were basically, you were like Bane. You were born in it.
I was born from this, exactly.
What was that like? That's the dream. I mean, I remember being, starting in Taekwondo when I was a kid in Lake Charles, Louisiana, going to the school, and the instructor, his kids trained there. And this was first generation Korean expats, ex-military, the old school Taekwondo that probably really doesn't exist anymore. But I remember being so jealous of their little kid, of his kids. Like, man, you get to wake up and do karate. You get to do karate all day long. Was it like that?
It's kind of like I almost feel, I don't know. I don't want to say it's not jaded, but it's when I don't remember life before martial arts. Like my earliest memories of my own life is martial arts memories. Like the earliest memory I could think of when I was about 4 was in a martial arts class. And I actually went to the restroom, and I tried to, back then they didn't have elastic waist pants. It was only drawstring, and it was like that hard canvas. It was like a real thick, like 12 ounce, or I think it was like a 12-ounce cotton. And I was trying to cinch my pants up, and I tied one end of it to like the turn of the bathroom stall. There was like the thing was off, so it was open. So I tied my one tie on there, and I pulled the string on both sides, but I made the mistake of pulling my pants tight, but then the knot I tied tightened. So I got stuck in the bathroom. So it was like a very traumatic memory, but a good memory, because I remember like some other martial arts, the older kids came to my rescue, untied me from the bathroom, and I was able to join class. But the cool thing is that luckily that memory stuck with me. So my oldest memory is taking class. We were doing like flying side kicks across the mat, and then I went to the bathroom to go to the bathroom and tighten my pants. So at least I have that memory, which is kind of cool. So it was a blessing in disguise. But my memories are just of martial arts. So it's like, it's kind of cool that when I address myself, like I'm not Justin Ichikawa, the YouTuber or videographer or whatever like that. Like I own a martial arts school. I am a martial artist. Like that's all I know. So if I were to move to like, I don't know, France and do something else, it's like I couldn't think of doing anything else. That's martial arts is like what I do. That's like who I am and what defines me, so to speak.
And the style that you train in is American Tang Soo Do, not
Correct,
to be confused with traditional Tang Soo Do. I do want to get into that in a little bit, because much like the evolution of Taekwondo in America, it seems there's been a evolution of Tang Soo Do from the Chuck Norris lineage. Mm-hmm. But before we get into all that, take me through your journey to black belt as the son of, I wouldn't just say a martial artist, a very noted, famous martial artist who's very influential in the martial arts scene of today. What was that like? Did you feel pressure growing up? You were your dad's son.
Of course. I mean, I think everybody always, wants to be, at least that someone who has one has to be more than their father's son.
Tell the good
It's
people out there who your dad is.
My father's Dennis Ichikawa. He is somebody who took, at least in the American Tang Soo Do world, there are different facets of American Tang Soo Do, different lineages, starting from Chuck Norris, and then the kind of tree filters out to different people. Even within our own community, we have other people that train through Pat Johnson or through people under Pat Johnson that went different directions than my father did, and just like any other martial arts system, just like the origin of karate from the Ryukyu kingdom, there somebody started it, and then those disciples, descendants, whomever, started their own versions of what they did. So when karate started, like it went off to different branches, and they started their own version of it. So that's kind of what Tang Soo Do was for us, or American Tang Soo Do was for us. So kind of growing up being Dennis Ichikawa's son, it's hard. It wasn't easy for me because it was hard for me to be respected by the guys that are higher ranks than me that grew up, with me, like the people that are much older than I am. But they were hard. It was hard for them to see me as somebody more than just this little guy, this little itch they called me. So it was
Little
just kind of
Ish.
little itch, right? It was tough because I didn't get to. I had to stand on the shoulders of my father, and I wanted to prove that I was more than that. So it was that whole like old Greek thing where it was I had to prove that I was somebody more. I had to be my own man and do my own thing. So me kind of teaching on my own or doing the YouTube thing was, I guess, sort of my way of doing my own thing, I guess, so to speak. But it's hard. It wasn't easy because I still to this day am in that shadow. But it's never a bad thing because I would not rather be in anyone's shadow other than my father's. Like I respect him greatly. There's nothing that I have bad to say about him, and I would not want to be led by anyone else other than him. I think that his martial arts lineage is great. I think that his knowledge is vast and impressive and amazing. The things that he, even to this day, he'll teach me things that I was like, wow, how come you never told, how have you never taught me that this entire year, all these years of my life, how have you never taught me that one lesson or showed me this one thing? And he constantly surprises me with the things that he knows and the stories that he tells me. And like when kids go to bed, they get, Hansel and Gretel. I got, well, this monk came into the Chuck Norris studio one day and he trained with us, and he had this giant cut across his body and blah blah blah. So things like that are it was fun to grow up in that, I guess, on that journey. It was a lot of fun.
Did you act out at all? Did you get in any fights?
I got in fights over the course of my life. I tried not to because of that training. I tried to avoid the situations, but the only fights I ever got into were either to defend myself against someone attacking me or to defend or protect somebody else. That's the only. I never went out and was like, I don't like the way you're looking at me, boom, and get in a fight, because that's not how I was raised. That's not who I am. I'm As a martial artist, I help the helpless. I don't go out to seek violence. But anytime I ever have, I didn't start the fight, but I'll finish it. So I have, been in those situations where I've flying side kicked people, I've, clenched and kneed people, things like that. I gouge, things like that to help other people that were in a fight, or my friends, or, someone came at me and I had to protect myself. So I have, yes, been in fights before. I did get lost along the way when I was a teenager, as most people do. I took a break from martial arts. I moved to New York, and I kind of had to discover myself, and I wasn't a very happy teenager. I was kind of angry, and I didn't know what I was doing with myself. And then later on, fast forward, I got back into martial arts and I got back on track. And I feel like that was the one thing that was missing. Why did I act out? I wasn't doing martial arts. And then when I got back into it, I was on that path. I was on the straight and narrow. I was able to find myself again through martial arts. So don't leave, stay in school.
Now, did you grow up in Thousand Oaks?
I did. I grew up in Thousand Oaks since the day I was born, and then I moved to New York for a couple of years, and then I went on tour with the band and did merch and photography and film with them, and then but I was training like a little bit throughout that time when I was
What
in my like early 20s.
Thousand Oaks is LA County?
It's Ventura County technically.
Ventura County. Oh, so what is it in the valley?
It's just north of the valley, so it's where the San Fernando Valley is. We're about like 25 minutes north.
Okay. All right, getting the demographics. So you traveled with a band. What's the name of the band, and how because I have a history of traveling, doing music, doing hip hop back in the days. What was the band, and how'd you hook up with that?
I had a couple bands that I went with. the first band I ever worked with was a band called Runner Runner. They were like a one-hit wonder band. They were on like, they played Letterman and Leno at the time. And I worked with them for like a couple of years when I was in New York, and I did tour managing for them. So I just managed every aspect of the tour and did like things like that. I also sold their merch. Then I worked for another band called Dragged Under more recently, and I did their content and their merch. So I would just take photos and film the whole set and edit and make edits of them. And so I used my YouTube editing skills, and that helped me out in this front, and was able to make a job out of it. And I toured with them for like a long time, like a couple of years.
What kind of bands are these?
Run Runner is like a pop rock band. They're like a now, like a, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a band I could relate them to. They're just like a pop rock band, something like a thing like, teeny boppers would love. And then the more recent band, Dragged Under, they're like a rock metal, like hardcore band, like a punk band kind of.
Oh, do you play?
I don't. I play a little bit of guitar. My father taught me some guitar because he used to play guitar in a band when he was younger. So I know a little bit of guitar, and I can sing a little bit, but that's about it.
Did you have to use any of your? Did you have to play security guard at times? Use your martial arts to?
Yes, because I was the martial arts guy. People would lean on me for like two situations. One tour, they're actually both same band, different situations. There were active shooter threats. There was like some crazed fan that was like, I'm going to come and, do this or that. So I had to be on high alert and, try to reference my active shooter training and like gun defense and stuff like that. So I was showing everybody like things to look out for. This is what we're going to do. I had to kind of run through the whole scenario of at least the training that I got of active shooter and things like that to kind of go through. This is what we're going to do here, and there. Just to look out for so and so. I told people to, the person who was the threat to stick near me, do the best that I could. I'm not that much of a guy, but at least I have the skills that nobody else on the tour had. So it was a little bit helpful in that aspect.
Okay. So we'll get back to your martial arts journey. When did you get your black belt?
I got my black belt in 1992, I think.
And man, you're older than you look. You're older than you look, right?
I'm older than I look?
You have to be.
Yes.
If you got your black belt in 92.
Yes, I'm 39 years old.
Okay.
So I got my black belt when I was 7, which
okay. Well, no, you're okay. I thought you were like 15 or 20 maybe, or 18 when you got your black belt. Got it when you were 7. Holy smokes, bro.
I know. So if I may, real quick, I know that there's a lot of people. In fact, I just got a YouTube comment the other day where someone said I'm too young to be a grandmaster. And I referenced the movie Lord of War, where it says a bullet from a 14-year-old is just as deadly from one from an adult, sometimes even more. And at least in our system, I know that there is this whole thing about people saying that, you have to have this much experience to do this or that. And then I look at it as our black belt curriculum for a 7-year-old is exactly the same as the curriculum for a 50-year-old. So whatever a 50-year-old does, the 7-year-old has to do too. The same amount of training, the same amount of hours, the same amount of, boards broken, forms done, things performed, knowledge learned, essays written, all those things are all the same as what an adult would do. So at least in our world, they might not be able to lift, X amount of pounds. They might not be able to do whatever, but they have to do the same exact curriculum as an adult does. So in my eyes, it's like, I don't see a 7-year-old martial artist black belt different than a 50-year-old, other than maybe some educational knowledge mentally. They understand certain concepts, but still they're doing the exact same curriculum. Now, granted, we haven't had a 7-year-old black belt in a long time, but the whole argument just, is a very sensitive topic for me because I made my black belt when I was 7. I had to do exactly what the adults did.
I think you should change it. You should change the rules just so nobody gets it earlier than you got it. You know what I mean? There's no 6-year-olds just so you keep the record, bro. You know what I mean?
Right.
Put a little sabotage in there.
No, I'm not about that life for sure. I get it for sure.
Yeah, man. There's different arts do it differently for different reasons. And if you just go on the internet and just listen to keyboard warriors give their opinion, whatever. But different martial arts do it. Like I said, my first black belt was Taekwondo, and there's thing I enjoyed about it was families could train together, so adults were in the class, moms could be in the class with their sons, with their daughters. I thought that was nice, and the black belt basically meant you passed this level of curriculum. It didn't mean you could go out there and flying sidekick a professional wrestler or something. But,
right, exactly.
But it's also a lot of fun. Do you remember that belt test? You were 7.
I was 7. I remember parts of it. I don't remember the entire thing. That's one of my. I'm upset that I don't remember every single bit of that test. But I remember on the way there we got a flat tire. I remember that again, another traumatic experience that sub triggered my subconscious. We're on the side of the freeway on my way to my test, and we're going to be late. But you know how late could we be because my father was running it. But at the time he had 2 schools. We had one in Thousand Oaks and one in Tarzana in the Valley. So that's where I tested, and I remember, doing my forms. I remember certain parts in the middle of it, but again, since I was 7, I don't remember too much of it. I remember the test after, but not that
Did
specific
you have
one.
to spar your dad?
No, there were times I was talking to one of my students about this the other day. They were like, did you and your father ever fight? He asked me the same question. And my father grew up in the circuit of the internationals, and so that's what you did in the 70s, and especially in the Chuck Norris school because the Chuck Norris fighting team was like they're undefeated. So he grew up just fighting. Like you were either a fighter or you're a forms person. So my father did both. So he would work with me on point fighting because that's what we did. Like we went in tournaments and we did forms, we did point fighting. So there were times where we did spar, and there were times where we would stand there and he'd be like, "Okay, we're gonna do this," and we point fighting. And his style of point fighting, I wish you could see it. He would do this thing where he would squat low and put his hands on his thighs, almost like McGregor style, right? So he would do that and he would wait there like all low, like crouched like a leopard or something. And I would be like, okay, what is he doing? It's kind of like when you do jiu-jitsu and like your coach or your teacher is just sitting there waiting for you to do something, and you're just like skeptical, like, is this a trap? So I would go there and I'd start to do something, and he would just round kick me in the head, and I'd be like, it was like that Chris Tucker moment, be like, where did that kick come from? Like, which one of y'all hit me? He doesn't kick me, and I had no idea where it came from. The easy head kick, and I was like, what is going on here? Or he would stand there, he would back knuckle me really fast. And so just watching him do these things is funny because we would spar and he would just dominate me every single time. Even when I was like 12, I had a little bit more spry in me, and I was able to do things and I was quick, but he just would just crack me every single time. Just his timing, his counter punch style, his kicking style, his combo style, he would just get me every single time. So it was I respect him always for that. Even now, he could still do it. He'll like randomly just like pop me in the body, just playing around, and him being almost 80 years old, he still got it. So hats off to him for that.
Now, can you give me a brief history or a brief explanation of American Tang Soo Do versus what the traditional Tang Soo Do people might know?
I would say that the best definition is Korean karate. That would be the best definition of it. American Tang Soo Do is Chuck Norris's Tang Soo Do. So Korean Tang Soo Do, whole different. No, I wouldn't say whole different. It's much more. I would say it's much similar to Shotokan or karate. When I learned, I took a minute in the channel to learn and compete in a Shotokan tournament, and I did a Shotokan kata form. And so when I'm watching him show me a couple different options to choose from, I would be like, oh, this looks just like this form we have, or just like that form. So I would say American Tang Soo Do, short version, Korean karate. That's what I would say it is.
Now, how did it break off? It broke off through Chuck Norris, right? Chuck Norris brought
it did. So Chuck Norris learned, him and Pat Johnson both learned American Tang Soo Do or Tang Soo Do in the Korean War. The story goes they were on base and there was a hill nearby, and they saw these heads popping up and down over the hill. And when you're in war, you're like, uh-oh, bunch of Asian dudes jumping up and down. What's going on over there? So they went over there, like slowly, they peeked over the hill, and there was a bunch of Korean military men doing jump turn and heel kicks. And so they were like, what's that? Like, can I participate? So they let them train. And so they just learned Tang Soo Do in the war. In fact, which is funny because, spoiler alert, in the new Cobra Kai, not like the newest season, but one of the seasons, they show the John Kreese and I don't know what the other guy's name is, learning.
Terry Silver.
Terry Silver, thank you. Learning Tang Soo Do, or learning their Cobra Kai which is Tang Soo Do, in the war, in the Korean War. So it's exactly the same story as Pat Johnson, which is kind of funny. When I saw that, I was like, hey, it's the same story. So it's kind of cool. Another video for another day, but that's it's a new concept to think about. But so they learned in the war, and then they brought it back to America, and then Chuck Norris would fight in tournaments. So in the tournaments, he was wearing a royal blue belt because that's a traditional belt. And they're like, what are you doing, blue belt? You can't, no, black belt. The blue belt division's over there. This is a black belt division. He goes, no, I'm a black belt. So he goes, from that day forth, they don't wear the royal blue. They wear black belts because he wanted to compete with the black belts. And so he would lose all the time to the Japanese fighters because they're Shotokan, Japanese styles. They counter punch all the time. In Korean martial arts, it's primarily kicking. So he's like, I want to learn from you guys because they would always beat him. So he's like, I want to learn the Japanese style of punching. So if you know Chuck Norris and know anything about him, he has rank in so many different things: judo, jiu-jitsu, I think Krav Maga, even different Japanese styles. So he took all of that knowledge and created American Tang Soo Do. So there's judo influence in it. We do judo throws, we do some takedowns, we counter punch just like the Japanese fighters do. Our forms, our kata, are just like Shotokan forms, but Korean style differently. A little bit of things here and there with the kicks. So that's kind of the I guess I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's just the coalesce of all the different styles put together and different versions of things, and that's how American Tang Soo Do was created. Long story short.
No, that's very helpful. But at some point, then Chuck Norris created, was it Chun Cook Do, another style, which I think then has also recently become the Chuck Norris system.
Yes, it's the Chuck Norris system, and like the what else? Like the American Tang Soo Do National Congress or something like that. Yes, he created his own style after that. I don't know too much about that, unfortunately, because that's.
I guess that's what I'm interested in. So he basically created with Patty Johnson, famous for being the fight choreography in the Karate Kid films. I believe he's recently passed.
Yes.
And big loss to the martial arts community. Pat Johnson did so much for the martial arts. But at some point, Chuck Norris went on and continued to evolve. And I guess the American Tang Soo guys said, hey, we want to maintain this tradition.
Yes. So the story goes is that my father, on the day of his red belt test, they got a call from Korea and they were like, hey, we're doing this. We're going to go this way. Do you want to go this way? Do you want to go that way? So Pat Johnson literally drew a line in the sand, so to speak, on the mat, and was like, either you're going to go with Korea and do Korean Tang Soo Do stuff, or you're going to go with us and do the American or National Tang Soo Do Congress, whatever they called it at the time, which ended up turning into this Chuck Norris style that he came up. Now it's like an acronym. I forget what it's called. It's like the American Fighting Something Federation or something like that. So he created two different things, and that's the day like where the tie severed from Korea to America. And then they created their own system from there. So they influenced and added different things here and there. But as far as that, that's kind of all I know in that aspect.
But Chuck Norris has a different style now, correct?
Yes, and again, I don't know too much about that.
But what I'm saying is your dad and whoever decided to maintain the American Tang Soo Do and not continue to follow Chuck Norris at some point.
Yes, that's correct.
How'd that go down?
That I don't know too much about. I just know that from what my father told me, I didn't ask too much about it, but he's told me that
you were 7. You know,
exactly. So, but recently, I think we had talked about something because I interviewed him. I do different things, story time with Great Grandmaster, and he would pepper in a little bit of story about that, about how that kind of went down. And I think one day he had a talk with Pat Johnson. Was like, hey, Pat Johnson was like, I'm going to do this. Chuck Norris is going to do his movie thing. I'm going to do this. Here's the school. Do you want to buy it from us? And I don't know too much about that story, but I remember the day he said that, he bought him and his partner at the time, we're going to buy the school from Pat Johnson, and that's where they're going to separate. And, you do your own thing. And Pat Johnson was like, do you want to do what we're doing? And my father was respectfully declined. It was like, I'm going to do my own thing. So he kind of did what Chuck Norris did in a manner of speaking. But other than that, I don't know too much about, I can't really talk about all that because I don't know too much about it.
No, it seems to have worked out well for your father. I believe he's had a good life and looks like he has a great family. Mm-hmm. How big is the American Tang Soo Do organization?
Our organization, or just in general?
I guess that's what I'm confused about. Is there different when you say our organization? You just mean your schools? I mean, like American Tang Soo Do as a system. Is there one unifying body, and how big is that body?
I no, there isn't. I don't think there is one mothership. There's no Palpatine in this whole thing, or I guess I should say Yoda. And so
it depends. It depends. I've known Palpatines.
That's kind of why I said both, right? Yeah. So there is no real, I don't think, head, because it's just like I said with the karate influences that there's the branch. So it starts here and it trickles down. So even in our world, my father has what we call the American Tang Soo Do Alliance, and that's his teachings and his students in their schools. So that's our specific alliance. So that is the American Tang Soo Do Alliance that we have specifically. Even in our community, in our city, we have people who train from Pat Johnson, different Pat Johnson students that did their own thing. So there's a guy named Roger Lacombe that has his own school. There's a guy named Johnny Gyro has his own school. So they're all from, Tom Bloom, guys like that. They're all Pat Johnson students that did their own thing, just like my father did. But I don't think, from what my knowledge, they don't have as many black belts that open up their own schools that my father did. And then my father's black belts open up their own schools. So in that, we have, in our alliance, we have about I think like 7 schools, some of them in Georgia, some of them here, one of them Dubai. There used to be one in Oregon, I think. So I think there's one in Reno. So he has different students that open up their own school, and we call that our alliance. And we used to test together as a group, but then we stopped doing that. I forget why. But we're all kind of under the same banner. So when we have tournaments, we all get together and have tournaments together, and things like that. So that's our specific alliance, my father's alliance.
Okay, that's helpful, because it's I'm always interested in styles and the history of the styles and even the drama that went down with the styles. It's all interesting. It's just life. It's like, it's like marriage or having a friend for 30 years. You're gonna talk for a while, fall out,
right,
make back up. Welcome to life. You know what I mean? So at what age did you get off tour with these bands?
I asked actually now, recently. I think the last tour that I went on was I think we were in Europe. Was it Europe? Or it might have been here. No, I think it was here. It was in the States. It wasn't that long ago. It was like a couple months ago. That was the last time I toured. So my father was running the school, and then I would go on tour, and then I would come back, and I would do, nowadays I can do a lot of things remotely. I can take calls and set up appointments and make flyers and press merchant media things out and do all these things on the road. But he would have to be there with some of our other assistants and teach the classes and things like that. So I just finished that just recently, and I was doing with them like a lot. We would go to Europe, we would be touring the United States a bunch. So it was a whole lot. It was just like a secondary job, and I love doing it. Like, traveling is amazing, and getting paid to travel is even better, and getting paid to travel and to film and photograph is even more fun. It's a hobby of mine. I love doing. And then when we got days off, I would do my forms in the workout rooms in the hotels and things like that to stay active and do some training. It was fun. It was good times.
Now, you're also full time at your dad's dojo.
Yes, it's our school together. But yes, he recently got diagnosed with cancer, so I am the main person there for right now. But he just recently, he's doing chemo right now, so when he feels better and his immune system is back up, he comes in the studio and does, like, if one student needs more help, he'll take them off to the side and he'll greet people when they come in and get new students and stuff like that. But he and I run the school together.
And what's that like? What's your experience been like as a gym owner?
It's not a job. It's fun. It's you go to work every day, and it's not work. It's not that 4-letter word. It's enjoyable. I get to teach people how to protect themselves. I get to teach little kids how to punch and kick and just be awesome. The other day we had a test, and we have this little tiny girl, baby little thing, and she's a green belt, and she does jiu-jitsu as well. And she's little, but she has heart. She has so much heart, more heart than even her brother does, which is pretty impressive. And she was doing her testing for red belt in Tang Soo Do, but she's also jiu-jitsu gray belt. And so she was rolling with a red belt student, a bigger red belt student, and she was able to submit him 3 different ways. She did, what was it, Americana, triangle choke, and armbar. And I was just like in awe of her, like her dedication, her passion, her drive, and she just, like, tenacity, just went for it and just submitted him. And I couldn't show bias. I didn't want to be like applaud too hard, but I was so proud of her for doing that and just submitting this kid. And this kid that she went with is not a jiu-jitsu student, but we do grappling in our Tang Soo Do curriculum. But he's good. He's a really good grappler. He's very strong. He's bigger than she is. And she just submitted him a bunch of ways. So having moments like those are just like why I do it. And then on the contrary, you have kids that test your patience. We had a new student come in and just didn't get it. It was just struggling to understand it. It just grieving me left and right. Just, we say yes, sir, in our studio. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. And so I said to this student, I was like, can you say yes, sir? And she goes, yeah. And so she's responding to my question. Yes, she can do that, but she's not responding the way that I wanted her to. So things like that, testing my patience. Move this leg. No, the other left leg. Things like that. Move faster. Sit here. Do there. It's makes it tough dealing with the trouble kids, but that's why we do it. That's the ebbs and flows of having a martial arts school and being in the martial arts industry, is having the problem kids and then having the good kids. So it's a nice balance. Keeps
Oh, I
me.
know. I have a gym here in the Houston area,
Oh, nice.
and yeah, it's Axiom Jiu Jitsu and MMA. We teach Jiu Jitsu, kickboxing, MMA, and the Eric Paulson system. And
Awesome.
are you experiencing this? This is driving me crazy. I don't know if this is because of COVID, uh, but if I tell a kid, and it's like with the adults a little bit, with the kids really bad. All right, take your left hand and grab your opponent's elbow.
Uh-huh.
They don't know where the elbow is.
Really?
They're grabbing shoulders, the back of their head. I'm like, you don't know what an elbow is?
Actually, there have been times where I think, yes, I've experienced that and the knee. And I have to explain, it's kind of like explaining stepping to somebody to like step forward or step
Mm-hmm.
back, and they move their front foot instead of their back foot. And I have to
Mm-hmm.
teach them how to step. It's like, how do you not know how to step? No, I've experienced that where they don't know the elbow. I can see that because you can't physically, because COVID for us, it took away the physicality of having to physically move a human to where you want them to go. So you thought it would help them being like, they have to learn on their own, walk on their own 2 feet, know where your elbow is. But I guess it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
But yes, I have experienced that, not knowing where your elbow is or knowing
Yeah. I
where your
told
knee
them the other
is.
day, I'm going to your school. I'm having a big meeting with the principal and if you're graduating students and they don't know what an elbow is,
Oh, we're
you
talking an older student did this,
no,
not a kid?
no, they're young. But even
Oh, okay.
with the adults, I think people just it's hard for them to if you don't come from a sporting background with having a coach bark out orders with you, I think people get flustered really easy. So even if you're a coach and you're just simply saying, "Hey, take your left hand and put it, on their elbow," they'll take their right hand. They'll always take the wrong hand, no matter what you.
Every
If I
time.
every
Every
time,
time.
without
You could bet
fail,
on it. I'll put a parlay on that one for
you
sure.
know. So I think it comes from not playing any kind of organized sports as a young child, which all the more reason to put your kids into a martial art early, even competitively. Have them go out compete, have them fail, have them learn to deal with failure, have them learn to be gracious in victory.
Always in defeat.
Have them learn these key things they need in life that they're going to take into their marriage and their personal relationships in their workplace and all the things in life.
Yes.
That I think martial arts is the best incubator for those behaviors. What are your thoughts?
I'm 100% on that. Our motto is building strong character through martial arts. So it's knowing more than just how to punch, block, and kick. There's more to it, or how to choke someone out, how to pull guard on somebody or something like that. I think that there's no better training method than doing martial arts. I think that it itself, without even having to have a teacher, will beat you. It'll punish you. It'll bring you up. It'll raise you up. I've had the best high and low moments in my life in martial arts, and I've had the greatest victories and the greatest lessons. It's the whole Miyagi thing. It's learning how to be something without even knowing that you're doing it. Learning how to do this move with that move, and then because of that, your life changes. The way you move, the way you navigate, the way you process, the way you assess the room, and in anything you do, no matter if it's stand up or ground, it's everything that you do. It becomes what you are, who you are. It's the unnatural naturalness of how you become the mechanical man and yet be a regular human at the same time. The things that you do, and you constantly Spider-Man check yourself, like the things you catch and what you're able to maneuver because the martial arts reaction and timing and how it changes you. But I think that it's great. I think that there's watching someone evolve, like that little girl, watching somebody change from nothing to something is just so impressive. And I think that's I love sports. I love baseball. I'm a Dodger fan, and there's nothing against group sports, but there's just something about martial arts that you can't learn. Like you said, you can't learn on the field. It's just, there's something else about it that you just can't learn. There's no fouls. You get punched in the face and it's like, well, let's wipe the blood off and let's keep going. There is no timeout. Take your shot. That's just how it goes. So I think that builds the strongest character. It's a kind of a downside because, and I know you experience this too nowadays, that there are certain, at least here in California, I don't know, I'm sure Texas is different, but people are getting softer. They're more leniency towards like, okay, let's call them a little bit more. So we have to kind of, appease those gods of that sensitivity a little, but we also, the parents understand, okay, you have to be a little tougher on this kid. You have to do a little bit of this. Kids are going to get hit. You kind of have to shake it off and keep moving, which is tough. But like you said, I fully agree on your failure. Failure is the greatest lesson in disguise. It's the best thing we can do. And I think that's one thing that martial arts does is that you are going to fail and you're going to win and lose gracefully. And you have to learn how to do that. And it teaches all that stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
100% with you on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I've had moms get mad that some kid was rolling too hard with their kid. And I'm there
Always,
watching. If I don't think it's too hard, it ain't too hard.
always, always.
And this is the deal. Look, that bully we're training them for, it's going to be
100%.
10 times harder. You don't want the first time that they deal with some serious pressure to be the bully who's trying to punch them in the face.
100%.
That's not what you want.
Right.
So it's better for them to get tough here. And, it's important to have a coach you trust. But as an instructor, sometimes you've got to deal with different personalities, and that can be challenging as well. Do you guys have it sounds like you guys have a jiu-jitsu program at your school?
Yes, we do.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu, correct or no? You said gray belt, so I assumed it was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yes. So with all that stuff, I started training from a Japanese jiu-jitsu background. So
did I. Yeah, I started in Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Exactly. So and I didn't know at the time when I was starting it, I didn't know what the difference really was.
Same here.
And it was one of the things where right. So
it says jiu-jitsu. I'm gonna do this Hoist Gracie thing, right? It says jiu-jitsu.
Right. I was like, wait, this is spelled differently. It's not J-U-I, it's J-I-U-J-U-I, So I was like, what does that mean? So we spell it still the Japanese way, not the Brazilian Portuguese way. But I started as a white belt and talk about a wake-up call. I don't know, you said you did Taekwondo and then you did jiu-jitsu. So going from, especially me, who all I know is Tang Soo Do. That's all I know. And so when I started training jiu-jitsu as a white belt from a 7th degree black belt, I was like, what am I doing? Like if I put on a white belt again, it was so humbling, and I got the crap kicked out of me by everybody. And I was like, what is going on here? Like on the mat, like in sparring, I could dominate, but when I get on the ground, like people are just crushing me. My soul was just crushed. And I was going through that of like, what am I even doing? Like, am I just this terrible? Should I not do this anymore? And so I kept getting the crap kicked out of me for years. And
that's how white belts. That's natural. Right. You're supposed to feel like that. I wanted to quit. Right.
So I didn't know, and I didn't remember what this was like from being a little kid, of like how soul crushing it was. But then being a grown adult, where I was already set in my ways, and this is what I teach people. I teach people this: you're gonna suck, you're gonna be terrible, don't worry. And I was like, wow, I'm living this. So it was a wake up call, and it was very humbling. And so it got to a time where I was getting, further along my white belt, where it finally clicked, and that defeatist attitude was gone, and I started to get it, and I started to get better, and I started to create my own style. And my teacher was, the best thing he said was, don't try to create a style from nothing. Take your Tang Soo Do black belt training, take your black belt attitude, mentality, and skill, and relate it to jiu-jitsu. And I was like, okay, I'll try and do it. And so because of that, I was doing, fancy schmancy stuff, and it was working for me. My footwork, my stylized way of point fighting, that mentality and way of doing style was helping me in jiu-jitsu. So when I got my blue belt, and then, I started to develop more style, and I got my purple belt, and then it all kind of made sense, and I was relating that. And so the way I teach that is the same, and I try to relate that. So I started doing Japanese jiu-jitsu there, and then later on recently, when I got my purple belt, I got it from a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. And so his style is incredibly diverse. His name's Neil Tori. He does a lot of foot locks, toe holds, knee bars, heel hooks, things like that. And his style is extremely different. And so learning both of those styles combined was fantastic. I thought it was really cool. It was good insight. And so when I created our own system of curriculum for our own school, it was kind of like, okay, I want to do like what Chuck, I always related it all to Chuck Norris. What did he do? He learned different styles and put them together. My father did the same thing. He did different things. He introduced some Krav Maga stuff, and we made it a little different. So in jiu-jitsu, we wanted to do the same. So we did the same belt system because I wanted the kids to have structure, just like Tang Soo Do did. I wanted them to learn, this set of curriculum here, here, and here, learn, retention of technique and basics, positions, how to pass them, certain submissions, and then put it all together and make it into like a song. So that's kind of how I wanted to do it. So that's what we do in our school. Sorry, that was long-winded. I apologize.
No, man, helpful. Have you met Chuck Norris?
That's the one thing that I have not done. He was at an event where we were at. He was being honored at the Maya Super Show. It's like a Century Martial Arts Super Show thing. And he was the speaker of the house, and so he was our speaker of the house, the speaker of the night. He was like, I think it was a Lifetime Achievement Award or whatever. And we almost got a chance to meet him then. It almost worked out to where one of our black belts was in the organization. He was trying to get us in there, and he was too busy and didn't work out. So no. And then my father tested recently for his 10th, or was promoted to his 10th, and I tried to get Chuck Norris to come, but he wouldn't do it because we weren't part of the UFAF system, United Fighting something Arts
Is
Federation
that
or
what
something
his
like
deal
that.
is? Yeah,
Yes,
he's big down here. Here in Houston, we have
right.
the Kickstart program where they're
Yes,
teaching
exactly.
martial arts in school. Several of my friends are currently teaching. Several of my friends have taught in the middle school system here in that program. So, and they all have pictures. Them and Chuck Norris. I'm always a little
Right.
jealous, you
I
know,
know, right?
growing, golly, it's Chuck Norris,
Uh,
you know. Yeah, I don't know. One day, bro.
I know.
You
I
you
hope.
still
I
you
hope.
still want to meet him, or is it a little? Does it feel a little?
There is what happened. I don't know. I feel weird saying. I don't want to like. It's there. I have mixed emotions. I'll just leave it at that.
I got you. That's all you need to
Emotions.
say, man. Hey,
Um,
you know what I mean? So what's next for you, man? What's on the horizons for Sensei Ichi? You gonna hop back on the YouTube space
I
or
keep.
what, bro?
The thing is that I keep. I love doing it. Creating content is fun for me. And teaching is what I know. It's what I do. I literally in my own life, like I love. I think as a man too, like we love fixing things. We love tinkering with different things. So teaching is my favorite thing. I love to do it. I sitting down and sitting down and filming and first creating a concept and a content idea that makes sense, that it works, filming it, editing it, doing all the work for it, and then putting it out, and then doing all the hype to get it to where it is time consuming. And running my own school and doing everything about it is time consuming. So it's a matter of, and then having my relationship. They're all jobs you have to work at. So it's tough. I want to do it, and I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I just need to pull the trigger and do it. It's really challenging for me, but I have concepts I want to do. I have this really great thing I want to do, and there's actually something I've been working on for years, where it's like a group. I filmed all these different martial artists doing different, the same thing but different, and I was going to do a thing about that, and that's on the horizon too. So I want to do it, and I'm going to. I swear, but that's my plan in the future to do it. It's also hard getting past the concept of all the trolls. But I don't want to put out stuff that's just going to be laughed at and joked with. So it's tough to find the drive to do it. I guess that's my biggest thing.
That is
Is
the
it worth
thing.
juice worth the
Are
squeeze?
are you ever interested in doing anything like narrative or maybe a documentary or?
The closest I got to it is I made a mini documentary for my father's 50th anniversary, and I'm very proud of it. And it was reviewed. A lot of people really liked it, and I enjoyed doing it. So documentation. We do actually kind of do something like that every black belt test, right, where I document each candidate's journey. I interview them, and I do this whole thing, and I film and do some B-roll footage, and do the picture slideshow and all that stuff. But yes, I think that'd be something I would enjoy doing. It'd be
I think
fun
your
to do
dad
that.
deserves a feature, man, like a feature doc.
I mean that thing I did. I actually already did it. It's
How
literally a
long is?
movie. It's a 20 something minute documentary, basically of his life. I did
Yeah.
some AI narration, but I wrote it all myself. But I had AI overdub it. But I interviewed a lot of his black belts and did like a whole thing. It's on my channel. It's really really good. If you want to watch it, it's fun. Shameless plug, but
I
it's
think
really
I have watched it. Yeah, yeah. I
I
enjoyed it.
was very proud of it. Very very proud of it.
Too short, man. I want to get in depth. There's more to his story.
There is. I mean, before if he's, I don't know if I'm a roast, but like since he's going through what he's going through, like if you wanna sit down and talk with him, I feel like now is the best time, and it's actually beneficial for me too because
Yeah,
there are so many things in his mind that he still hasn't told me. That not that he's like holding out on me, but he just like forgets to tell me. He'll
yeah,
tell a story of like, how did I not hear that story? 39 years of my life, I have not heard that
yeah.
story. How? So if you want to, that'd be great for you if you want to sit down and talk with him. I feel like
I'd love to have him on. Does he feel good enough to do something like that?
I think that like this sitting down 100%, because he's, I don't, and again, I questioned why you wanted to meet with me because to me, I'm a nobody. To the people I've seen you interview and the people you talk about, like, who am I? Like my father is much better to speak with than me. I appreciate, and I'm very humble. I appreciate you greatly
He's
for
being
wanting.
humble, everybody.
Thank you so much. I
Everybody
appreciate
knows Sensei Ichi. Each
that.
is a big deal.
And I appreciate that greatly. But he is someone who, like the life he lived, and he's lived this incredible life in the martial arts world. The people he's met, the story he could tell, like it just is incredible. He's witnessed and he's been in legendary martial arts situations. he was in Enter the Dragon. He was in, with Jim Kelly. He has these stories he tells me, where I'm like, what do you like?
Your
Who?
dad was
This
in Enter the
story?
Dragon. He was like in the movie,
He was okay.
or he was like there
Yeah,
on set, or what?
his arm was in the movie during a
That
scene with
counts.
Bob Wall. It
That
counts. So
counts.
I'll count it for, and that's in our world, in the martial arts world. That is the movie. It's a huge. That's like a legendary staple, being with Bruce Lee. So, and being in the same room as Bruce Lee is a huge thing. And fighting in the internationals against all these people, like, it's, who does that? Like, nobody can. There are very few people alive today can say that you were alive to fight these giants, these legends, that you were in the same room as these people, you were on the mat with these people, learn from these people. Like, who could say that? He's Chuck Norris 67th black belt. Like, that's a low number. It's insane. So it's incredible. So I feel like that's the person that you're gonna sit there and just be like, wow, like, you're telling me these stories and they're not even made up. These are like actual stories. And so that's the person you want to talk to for sure, if you can.
Oh, please set it up, man. I'd love it.
I will do. I will do that.
He's a legend, and we're losing so many legends.
Yes.
And it's important to document their stories and their lives while they're here. So yes, I would love that. I'll follow up with you on that. So no desire to do like a movie, like a narrative karate, martial arts flick or anything.
That's you talking about me specifically, like
yeah,
write and direct and all that stuff?
Yeah. Oh, it's daunting. If you're not into it, don't do it.
Probably not. Like, I don't think that's for me. It sounds great, but I don't. That would take so. I don't even know, because there are different people who
sounds great.
It sounds great. It sounds like awesome, but I don't know if I even have the skill.
I'll send you a link to my movie. That's my movie, Lion Killer. It's a BJJ movie. Okay, cool. And we did this, film festival circuit, won stuff.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Tubi, a few other places. So it's not like it's more of a drama with martial arts elements. But yeah, I'll send you a link. So I ask all my guests. I ask all my guests, what's if you had any advice from all your martial arts journey, what would your advice be to the next generation?
To stay true to the basics, stay true to history of where the style comes from. Try to learn as much as you can about where the style comes from. And when you are, and this goes for any style, I think learning why you do it, not just that the teacher, the sensei, the coach is telling you do this. Ask questions as to why we do this. Not in an insulting way, like, what is this for? Not in a condescending way, but what is the purpose of doing move X? Like, why? What am I doing interpretively? I guess is what you would question. I think that would be the thing to do, is understanding, not just learning, what it is. Like, I can set an armbar, I can set a triangle choke, I can do whatever. Why do I put my hand here? Why does this part go there? Why do I do this? Where is my elbow? No, just kidding. Where are all these things that we need to learn? Like, why we do this? Why we do that? I think that's the best thing you can learn. Learn the lineage and the history of what the move is and where it comes from, why we do it. I would say that would be the best thing to do. And then never stop training. Always keep training in what you're doing, even if it's something simple. And try to make your martial arts part of what you do in your life. Try to shut doors with a kick, or move something with a parry, or navigate through people with footwork and and the basics and things like that. When you're given a hug, try to get a clinch. You'd always try to make what you're doing, in your martial arts training, part of your life. That way, it's in you inherently. It's running through your veins. It's who you are. That way, you live as a martial artist. You breathe as a martial artist. You're not just on the mat. You leave the studio, you're not that person anymore. You want to try to be that person all the time. I think that would be the best thing. And something that my father always says, 3 things. You have a dedication to your studio, be dedicated to yourself and to the art of whatever it is you're doing. And, give back to the art, give back to yourself, give back to the school. That's definitely something that I would recommend too.
Awesome. One final question. And I ask everybody this, some people don't have an answer, but do you have a interesting or funny story that's happened along your travels?
So when I was 9 years old, I think I was about 9. I'm little. I'm not that big. I'm 5'8". I'm Japanese, half Italian. So I'm a little person. So when I was 9, I was probably like very, very small person. So because I was 9 and I was in a black belt division, I was competing against different different kids that were much bigger than I. So in our back then we would do tournaments in our alliance that I spoke of before. So it was something like, at the time, like 5, 6 different schools, like hundreds of people in divisions, in the tournament, excuse me, and then within the divisions there was a bunch of kids. So in our division there were kids that were like heads taller than I. We didn't separate by weight and size then. It was just, go in, go for it. So I competed against, it was point fighting, and I competed against a bunch of different kids. And when it came up to me, there was this kid that I would constantly compete against. I remember his name was Devin Martinez, and he was, this bigger, dare I say, husky, like a thicker kid. He was a thicker kid, and he was taller. He was 2 heads taller than me. I was a real strong, good Latino fighter. So he and I would go up against each other, and he was just a punisher. He came from the school in Eagle Rock, and they were the head instructor started as a boxer, and then he was just hard hitting guy. And so his students were the same. They were fighters primarily. That's all they would do. So he was just like, we got up and we would go. And I was like my dad, I was a quick point fighter. And this kid was just like a stand toe to toe, hands in, just a brawler. And so he would just, punch me in the arms. He would kick me in, I'd block, and I'd get knocked all over the place. So there was this one, I think the point was like, it was like 2-1. He had 2, I had 1. So he came up and he did this skip up side kick. And he kicked me. It was like a Bruce Lee movie. I shield up, and he kicked me in the arm, and I just went. It was in a basketball gym. And I went flying across the mat, knocked into the chairs, and all the chairs were all over the place. And I remember, I hope he's not hearing this. His dad came over and literally took a picture of me on the ground. And
You're
I was
lying.
like, what? Like, what did you do that for? And my dad shoot him away. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, back off, back off. And my dad wasn't the head judge because he didn't want to be biased, so he stood back. He was just coaching me, and so he pushed the guy away, and the guy tried to argue with him. And I'm like, this is my father's technically my father's tournament. Like, what are you doing? And my father was yelling, get out of the ring. You don't have no business here, blah, blah, blah. So he picks me up, and he's like, I'm crying my eyes out. I was a little kid, flying across the gym. And he's like, do you want to quit? Do you want to quit? And I remember that moment where I was like, I wanted to, because I was in so much pain and I was scared, out of my mind. But it was that Karate Kid moment where I was like, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going. I'm like, oh, I'm going to keep going. So my dad picks me up, and he straightens up my toe lock, and he throws him back in the ring. Okay, let's go. So I remember from the training what we did, my dad did back knuckles a lot. So I was like, the only way I'm going to beat this kid, I can't out strength them. I can't, get in the inside and go toe to toe with them. So I'm going to outscale him. So we did this thing where we did a back knuckle. So the only thing I could think of to get up, because again, he's had 2 heads taller than me. The only way I can get up to him is by jumping. So what I did was I was like, all right, I'm going to try this out and see if it works. So I jumped up and I back knuckled, and I was able to hit him in the head before he could get to me because he didn't expect it. And I was like, okay, I'm onto something. So 0.1, and this is going to 3 points. And then it was last, it was 2-2 tie score. And all of a sudden I jump up, boom, and I back knuckle him, and I got the 3rd point. My dad was like, oh, let's go. He was all cheering and super happy. And I won 3-2. And it was just a very victorious, great Karate Kid style moment, where I got the crap kicked out of me, I got thrown across the room and got back in there, and I kept going, and it was victorious. So it was kind of good, happy situation that happened, a cheery moment that happened there.
That's awesome, man.
Success story from when I was a little kid. So I always tell my students the same kind of thing. I'm like, and it's funny because my nephew is 9, and he is an orange belt, and he was in a point fighting match in our studio the other day, and he did the exact same move. And I was like, hey, I know that move. And it was almost the same situation. The kid he went up against was a bigger kid, bigger than him, and he did the back knuckle and got scored the point. And I didn't even teach him that, so it was kind of fortuitous that it happened. So it was kind of neat. But that was my success story, I guess.
That's awesome, man. I can imagine your dad just how many times he's thought about that over the years, just driving in his car.
He brought it up, right?
Yeah.
He brought it up the other day.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Where can people reach you for anything? Do you do seminars? Do you do?
Not really. No one's ever asked me to do that. I mean, I've taught at other schools in our alliance. I was like, hey, do you want me to come teach just to get back to the art? I wanted to just offer my services. I went on a trip once across the country, and we have a school in Georgia, or alliance school in Georgia. So I taught there, I did a seminar there, but no one has ever asked me to teach a seminar ever, which is kind of funny. I don't even know what I would say even if I got asked, because I feel like with my style, it's very specific. So if another person would ask me to do it, I don't even know if it would be helpful, but I would not say no. I would love to do it. It'd be fun for me. But if they want to, they can either go to our website, which is toslikekarate.com, or to my social media, I guess, which is, at Sensei_Ichi. And that's pretty much it, if that ever would happen. But I'd be honored to do it, very much so.
You heard it, people. Bring him out. Pay the man. He's a legacy. All right, man. I thank you for coming on. I had a great time, and
Thank you so much.
hopefully, one of my travels up to California, we can get together, or maybe one day you can come down here and do a seminar or
That'd be great.
something. Who
That'd be great.
knows, man? Yeah. Well, all the best, man. God
Thank
bless.
you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of FURYCAST. Want to give a big shout out all the way from Thousand Oaks, California, representing the art of American Tang Soo Do, Mr. Justin Ichikawa. If you want to reach out to Justin for any reason, his links are in the description. And make sure you show your boy Derrick Fury some love by joining the mailing list for my new graphic novel, The Gentleman's Guild, art by Ibi Canales. That's right, Ibi Canales. The link is in the description. And don't forget to watch my feature film, Lion Killer. That's right, I made a movie. It stars Regina Ting-Chen, who's currently on season 4 of Stranger Things. You can watch it on Amazon Prime, Tubi TV, Freevee. There's even a full Spanish dub. And thanks again for checking out this episode of FURYCAST. As always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can be notified every time a new FURYCAST video drops. This is Derrick Fury. Until next time,